And we have Joe Berlinger, who is one of the directors of Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory. And we have Jason Baldwin, who is one of the West Memphis 3.
Jason, right there.
You guys are victims, man. You're victims of a horrible, horrible miscarriage.
I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
It's so weird because the documentary, over the 3 documentaries, you absolutely went from us seeing you as a child, pretty much, and now as a grown man, and we know pretty much everything that's gone on in that interim. So it's kind of weird to have you sitting here. It's like, oh, I know this guy.
Right.
Yeah. Do you find that odd when people kind of
we
know?
didn't get Sirius Radio back there where I was at.
No, huh? Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Do you find that odd? Do a lot of people kind of feel like they know a lot about you because, and honestly, they do?
Yeah, it's definitely odd, but it's very cool. You know, people just pop up out of the scene, you know, just wherever I'm at any given time, and it's like, hey, I just wanted to say, you know, I prayed for you, or I was pushing for you, or pulling for you, whatever the case may be during this time, and just glad to see you out. And to me, that's just awesome, you know.
And if we can let people know, most people know this case, this documentary, and all the ones you've done are enraging. It makes you so angry watching these things. Do you want to, in a nutshell, just let people know? I'm sure most people know, but anyone who might not know exactly what happened to you or what you were accused of.
Right. Well, shoot, it was I was 16. I was on my last day of school for the 10th grade when the police just come and snatched me out of my friend's house, snatched my friend up, snatched another guy up, and just railroaded us for this crime we didn't do. They refused to listen to reason. You know, I had family, friends, everybody that was, you know, willing to stay where I was at the time of the crime. And
so you did have alibis?
It just fell on deaf ears. Yeah, I had alibis, you know.
And it was the murder of 3 local boys.
3 8-year-old boys.
Were found in a wooded area. And, yeah, you guys got scooped up, and they pretty much said, that's it, we got our guys, and pretty much made it fit instead of trying to find out who really did it.
And the boys they thought were killed as part of a satanic ritual because there were scrape marks which appeared to be knife wounds on them. One of the boys was castrated. So it looked like this brutal satanic ritual crime. And I remember watching the first documentary and just being horrified to think of having been in the woods, because I thought you guys were guilty the first time, at least the first part of the first documentary. Didn't you think that when you first began making the first movie of Joe Berlinger too?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the amazing thing about this, you know, 3-film, 2-decade journey is that when we first went down, all the press reports were incredibly one-sided. We didn't know it was one-sided at the time. We just read these press reports about a open and shut case, overwhelming evidence, confession. You know, we went down to Arkansas, you know, sent by HBO, thinking we were going to make a film about disaffected youth. You know, how could 3 teenagers be so rotten that they could do such a horrible thing? In the first couple of months, we had no reason to think otherwise because we were primarily spending time with the victims' families. But the first time I met Jason and the other guys, you know, they were all in county lockup awaiting trial. And, you know, it took us a couple of months to negotiate access. And once we did the interviews with these guys, we were like, wait a second, something's not right here. I mean, Jason was incredibly, he just drips with credibility. He does now, he did then. He just was incredibly believable. You know, all the guys, we just totally believed that. I mean, it's not like we said, oh my God, they're innocent, because that would be journalistically a little quick to judgment. But something didn't feel right after we did those interviews. Then we got to know the attorneys, then we started digging into the evidence, and we realized the evidence was incredibly weak, incredibly circumstantial, no physical evidence linking these guys to the crime. And we were naive enough to think that, well, this will all work itself out at the trial, because we actually arrived, you know, days after the arrest. We embedded ourselves in that community for about 8 months before the trials began.
Oh, wow.
So we really were there. We really dug in. And by the time the trials began, we were convinced of their innocence, but I guess naive enough to think that, you know, the justice system will work and they'll present their case and they'll be acquitted. And we then sat through a 2-week trial for Jesse Miskelly, followed by a 3-week trial for Eccles and Baldwin. And our mouth, you know, was just jaw-dropping. I mean, our tongue was on the floor half the time of this trial because, again, no real physical evidence. And rumor, innuendo, ghost stories were being told.
Can I ask you a question, Joe?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think Jason Miskelly, his name is?
Jesse
Oh, I'm
Miskelly.
sorry, Jesse. There was a false confession, which I think is really hard to get around for defense lawyers, even if it was coerced, which I'm sure it was coerced, or he wasn't the brightest guy. He was
72 IQ, yes, and not the brightest guy.
And when you give a confession where you're going, well, we did do this and we did do that, it's hard for a jury to wrap their head around the fact that, like, this is not true.
Because anybody would say, look,
I would never
say I did something if I didn't do it. So it does hold a lot of weight with the jury, yeah.
Well, false confessions are a very common phenomenon. People under pressure, under police interrogation, will say things just to get out of that immediate situation. The less intelligence you have, the more you're not thinking long term. You're just thinking, I got to get out of these 5 cops breathing down my neck for 12 hours. And as you see in the film, there were very leading questions. He wasn't getting certain key crime scene facts that if you were there correctly, the crime happened at night and he started off confessing, saying it was during the morning. And he gave 5 different times of day until finally the police led him to the right time. And it is hard to imagine for rational people in a normal situation, why would I ever confess? But all that person is thinking is, I'm going to just say the right thing. I'm not going to implicate myself, and I just want this will get me to get out of the situation, and I'll work it out later. They just want to get out of that room, that interrogation room.
And
He's the only
false
one.
confession wasn't the first one in that case.
Really?
Yeah, there was a guy who drove the ice cream truck, and right after the murders, he took off out to California to Oceanside, and Oceanside Police Department picked him up and forced him into a false confession for the very same crime.
What did you think, too, when you heard that, you 3 are friends and you'd all been arrested for this? How did they tell you, hey, one of the guys confessed?
Well, at the time, my attorneys were still trying to figure things out. They weren't sure if they actually had innocent defendants. They're just trying to figure things out, but, as a defense attorney, they're going to defend no matter what. So they're trying to wrap their minds around this false confession of Jesse's, and they couldn't figure out why everything was all mixed up. Of course, they didn't even know when the actual crime occurred because they're not getting all their information from the state. They're just trickling in a little bit of the evidence at a time. Just keeping my attorneys in the dark as to what happened or what was believed to happen and all that. So when I was told Jesse made a false confession, the first thing in my mind, the closest analogy I could come with it is a schoolyard bully bullying a kid into crying uncle. Right. That's what the police department did to Jesse.
Were you angry at him at all?
They just held him. No, I'm not angry at him because it wasn't his fault. He was just a kid. He wasn't the one with the authority and the vows to protect and serve the innocent. Those were the West Memphis Police Department's vows. They're the ones that were supposed to protect Jesse, supposed to protect us. They're the ones that were supposed to protect the community. They're the ones that got out of line when they made his kid confess to a crime he didn't do.
And when you look back on this and from the process, do you think the main culprit, because of the 3 guys, you seem to be the one who is the most vocal about being angry, and which I can certainly imagine I would be too. I can never understand how people aren't angry when they come out of these situations after having been so fucked by so many people, and how they can go, I'm not angry. Like, how could they not be? At least you seem to be able to not hide the fact that you're angry, which is a relief to see that.
Right.
I would feel the same way.
Yeah. That's
well, the thing about that is you don't want to let righteous anger turn into bitterness and things like that, to where your whole existence is clouded by just that. Because I'm free now and the circumstances aren't correct. There are things being done to make it correct. But at the same time, I still got to enjoy my life.
Right.
Because today is today, and once it's gone, it's over with.
What was the first thing you did when you walked out?
The very first thing, I went and got an ID so I can get on a plane and get out of the Mid-South.
You wanted to leave for good?
Well, yeah. When you're a kid growing up, even without all of this baggage, that all this bad stuff that happened, you always dream of what's over the horizon. You always want to go check out what's in the next state, what's in the next country, what's out there. So having spent 18 years in lockup, when the farthest north I'd ever been was the Craighead County Jail, the farthest west I'd ever been was a Pine Bluff unit and diagnostic unit in Pine Bluff. Farthest south was the Varner unit in Grady. I definitely wanted to get somewhere and see some things,
to get out of there.
And I had all these great letters coming from people all over the country, all over the world, saying, we believe in you 100%. When you get out, drop by and say, hey, So
wow.
I definitely wanted to check that out.
That just, it seemed, watching the documentary, so futile to try anything. It had to be so hard through all those years to think that you were ever going to really get out. It just seemed like everything that came up was against you.
I wasn't hopeless, but I felt helpless. For one, everybody I came in contact with, from Joe to different officers, Miss Curitan at the county jail, lock up all the way into prison, after spending time with me and talking to me, and stopping to actually question what was going on, they would be like, you know what, I believe you, and I hope you're freed, but they just couldn't do
no one could do anything
about it. They didn't have the keys. And whereas Judge Burnett, the prosecutor, Fogelman, Brent Davis, whereas they had the keys, but they refused to listen. They refused to reason.
I found them to be repulsive.
I tell them I'm innocent. I tell them where I was at that day, and it did not matter. They did not care. They did not consider anything. They were unreasonable.
What an abuse of power,
It really made me hate the state, not Arkansas or Tennessee or New Jersey, but the idea of the power that they can wield over you.
I mean, this is the classic example. Just show you just how that power is abused. There was a DNA statute passed in Arkansas in 2001, which is ultimately was the key to why they finally got out. That statute was passed in 2001. The state and the defendants argued for several years whether or not they could actually do the testing. Why would you not allow somebody who's claiming innocence to have any? Yeah. So they argued for several years about whether they can do the testing. Then they argued how the testing was going to get done. Then they argued who's going to do the testing. Finally, the test results after 6 years come out in 2007. Very compelling DNA evidence that's quite exculpatory for these guys. Comes out in 2007. It takes a year for Judge Burnett to then deny that they deserve a new trial based on that DNA evidence. He says the DNA evidence is not compelling. Then it takes 2 years to go to the Arkansas Supreme Court, and thank God the Arkansas Supreme Court in November of 2010 says, you know what, these guys do deserve an evidentiary hearing based on this DNA evidence, and set that date for December of 2011. That means 10 years have gone by to argue about and to get DNA evidence in front of a judge. As soon as that date was set for the 2011 evidentiary hearing, that scared the shit out of the state. Yep. And the state in 10 days makes this Alford plea deal. On August 9th, 2011, because they fear this evidentiary hearing.
They could have done that 10 years prior.
August 9th of 2011, they start talking about an Alford plea. August 19th, 10 days later, they're out of prison. Whereas 10 years had gone by where they tried to stop this DNA evidence.
Because some scumbag judge and some scumbag prosecutor doesn't want to admit that they did something wrong, and they're worried about their own record.
Absolutely.
And the state's liability, I'm sure, for financial.
You see it in the movie. The new prosecutor, Scott Ellington, who had nothing to do with the original travesty of justice, but he says quite blankly in the film that we're doing this because we don't want to get sued.
We don't want to get sued for millions of dollars.
I can't imagine you're sitting in prison knowing, holy crap, I could be out like next week, and now you have to wait another 10 years. I can't even imagine what that would feel
That's
like.
what happens when you're poor, and one of you guys said we were just poor white trash, or someone said that that's how they viewed you. You didn't have the money to get enraging.
But what were you thinking, knowing in 2001, I could be out tomorrow. This is going to set me free, and then you have to wait a decade.
Well, I knew what I was dealing with by that point. I knew
no surprise.
I knew that
I would lose my mind.
Fogelman, Brent Davis, and Judge Burnett, I knew that they didn't just make a mistake and pick up the wrong guys. They deliberately made people lie on us. They deliberately took career criminals and gave them a free get-out-of-jail pass if they would lie on us. They deliberately forced Jesse to admit to doing something he did not do. These are not mistakes. These were calculated things. These were an abuse of power, and they continued that abuse all throughout this by trying to fight us to get the DNA tested. That were
so how did you deal with that in prison?
You know,
from 2001 to 2011, how did you deal with that?
In prison where I was at, it's a different place. They put you to work. You work every day, and you get a schedule, and you have to work, or you're going to be in the hole. So you have all this stuff going on, and then you have working, doing day-to-day life stuff, trying to keep your mind right. You know, not just for you, but your family. You know, I got a mom. I got 2 brothers. You know, at the time I was 16, but my brother Matthew was 14. My brother Terry was 9. They got expelled from school the following year because they would stand up and fight for my name when people would say crazy things to them, you know.
Yeah.
So and my mom, she suffered, I don't know how many nervous breakdowns because of it, because the whole community just turned against her, besides, you know, the people she just knew.
Yeah.
You know. So I try to be strong for them so they don't think that I'm just, you know, dying in there or being abused in there.
By the way, how did the other prisoners treat you? Because crimes against kids are a rough one when you go to jail.
Those
and that was
the worst ones ever.
A high-profile crime like that. Were you guys given a hard time by the other inmates?
Well, when I landed at the Varner unit in 1994, in May of 21st of 1994, they were waiting on me. Everybody was already seen the trials on TV, you know, and they were waiting on me. It was a fight. I mean, I've got a shattered skull, broke collarbone, all types of scars over my eyes and stuff just from fighting. But as the years went by and you know, people started respecting me, started getting to know me, who I really am. Joe, Bruce's documentaries came out. People started coming to prison who had seen that. The officers who worked there started to see that. And slowly but surely there was a paradigm shift. Instead of people hurling fists at me, curses at me, you know, it turned into hugs and prayers and like, man, we really hope you get out of this place. You know, our guards would bring me, you know, hamburgers, MP3 players, whatever, just to make my stay there easier. You know, and they would tell me all the time, man, I wish I could just give you the keys and let you out.
Wow.
What's the guy's name? The judge? Because I think he's running for some office down there.
Judge Burnett.
Burnett.
He actually already has been elected to state senate.
He's a senator.
Oh my God.
And that was the key. His election to state senate was one of the watershed events that actually allowed this deal to happen.
Because he wouldn't recuse himself, right?
Right. I mean, one of the greatest travesties has been, amongst a long list of travesties, has been Judge Burnett. You know, it is legal in Arkansas in some states for the original trial judge to then preside over the appellate process, which is, to me, completely counterintuitive.
Right.
As if
be a new,
it's like
new set of eyes and ears
exactly,
on this.
as if the original trial judge during the appeals process is going to find fault with how he ran the original trial.
Yeah.
It's just insane. But this guy, for 18 years, there were dozens and dozens. I mean, we touch upon a few of them in the movie, but in reality, there were dozens of appeals, and the process was Burnett would deny the appeals. The Arkansas Supreme Court would affirm the denials, and just everything for years and years.
This dirtbag fighting the DNA or the evidentiary hearing, or fighting to talk about the DNA, it proves to you everything you need to know about how they don't care if you're innocent or guilty.
Yeah, wouldn't you want the
they
truth?
don't want to look bad.
Regardless of anything, wouldn't you want the truth? And if there's some new technology
and
to
I
be
could
used?
understand if their point was that they did not have the funding, but we had private funding.
Oh, yeah.
And then the evidence was going to go to an accredited laboratory that people all over the United States use, different police agencies use, the FBI used. So there was no question about how good it was going to be done, and it getting done, and it being paid for.
And it could have strengthened their position. Had you guys come up DNA guilty, every movement to free you would have been ended.
Well, the problem with that was they knew we were innocent.
They knew.
They knew they totally set it up. It was not a mistake.
So they knew beforehand.
And
Yeah, they didn't even need to see it.
An amazing turn in
DNA.
this case, too, was that there was a hair found in one of the ligature, because the boys were tied up and they were found in the woods, and there was a strand of hair, I think.
Right.
And it exonerated all of you guys.
Right.
But it gave a 1.5% chance that one of the stepfathers
Actually, it gave a 98.5%
Yeah, it was
chance.
It
Oh
was
my
all
God!
like-
I got that completely the wrong way. Wow, I just did my math backwards.
Yeah. No, it's it matches.
Good with that Columbo.
It matches 1.5% of the population.
That's okay,
including Terry Hobbs, one of the stepfathers.
Right.
So it's very compelling DNA evidence. I mean, the point of the DNA is, it's hard to point a finger to somebody else
Sure.
after what we've all been through
Sure,
with this
yeah,
case.
yeah.
The point is, there have been numerous items from the crime scene tested, and not a drop of DNA points to the West Memphis 3. That is the point of all of this DNA.
Wow.
And there was
it
also
points to other people.
There
I
were,
had long hair back then, and my stuff shedded like a dog, So if I was there'd have been hair everywhere.
and they found a hair, which again could have been his, maybe it's not. And there was apparently they asked him. There was witnesses that saw him talking to the three boys
Right.
the night they disappeared, where
And
his
he
alibi.
said he hadn't seen him.
He said he didn't see them. Someone else said that she saw him talking.
And they go over all this in
All of this-
Paradise Lost 3.
The documentary on
yeah,
DVD,
Purgatory.
on HBO. I don't know if you can get it on HBO right now. I have the DVD.
It's on HBO. It premieres Thursday, this Thursday, January 12th, on HBO.
I felt so special when I got the disc early to see it. I
don't even
went
have one
home,
of those.
put it right in.
You don't even have one of those.
That's geez, give him one for Christ's sake.
Give him yours, Jimmy.
No, but I've seen it.
Something other than just the trial itself and how you guys were railroaded. You get out. You're not really used to this limelight thing. All of a sudden, you pretty much considered a celebrity at this point. How are you reacting to that?
I don't know. How am I reacting to it, Joe?
It's been amazing. First of all, he's an incredibly impressive guy. How he's maintained a lack of bitterness, how he's educated himself in prison, his attitude towards life has been pretty amazing. But we've had a great time. Within a couple of, I have some great memories since over the last couple of months. Literally just a few weeks after he got out of prison. I'm friendly with Sting and Trudy Styler from my previous movie Crude, and so Sting invited us to his 60th birthday party concert at the Beacon, and so I invited these guys, and cool, after about the third song, cool. I'm thinking to myself, my God, Jason was in the Slammer like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and here he is at the Beacon in New York City, rocking out with Sting and Bruce Springsteen, and that was really special.
It's got to be an amazing thing.
And then, Metallica has been a huge supporter of the West Memphis 3 and of our films right from the get-go. I mean, the Metallica were the first ones in, giving us all that great music for the films early on. And so we were having dinner in September, and Jason was reminding me how much he loves Metallica still, and telling me all these stories of how he smuggled the music in. Every record, somehow made it into the prison. And so I said, I got to tell Lars this. So I texted Lars, and I said, hey man, I'm with Jason Baldwin. He's telling me some great stories. And so Lars called me back, and they got on the phone, and they had this beautiful half-hour chat. And then I get the phone back. This is Lars Ulrich from Metallica, says to me, oh my God, that was so amazing, but I was so intimidated, which I thought was amazing. And then the film premiered in Amsterdam. There's a really great documentary film festival in Amsterdam. It's kind of the big documentary event in Europe, and so I brought Jason, and we had this great time. We had Thanksgiving dinner, my family and Jason and his girlfriend Holly, and we had Thanksgiving dinner on a floating Chinese restaurant in the harbor in Amsterdam. So just being able to do these things with him for a guy who had his youth robbed from him has been really extraordinarily rewarding.
Did you have any dreams or aspirations to do something at 16 that just obviously you never got a chance to do? That because your life completely took this very obvious fork at that point.
Well, think back when you were a teenager, and you're going to school. The biggest thing that's coming up is the summer vacation, right? Summer vacation. I'm in 10th grade. It's my last day of school. I've got it worked out to where I'm going to get my first job this summer vacation, sacking groceries at Kroger. I'm going to learn to drive. My next door neighbor is helping me learn to drive. She's going to help me get a driver's license. All these different things that are really necessary for a 16-year-old guy, to impress his girlfriend and all that stuff, And I never got my first day of summer, instead of having fun, was in freaking West Memphis Police Department, crazy jail.
And you
know?
could have had no inkling that it was going to go on as long as it did either. So
Had no idea where that was coming.
You had a girlfriend at the time?
Yes, I did.
And it was weird to me when you see like the clips of the girlfriend interviewed. At what point, because your relationship at 16 is so important, at what point did that end where she's like, I just can't stand by you?
Well, we exchanged a few letters, and it was really difficult. They take me to the Jonesboro County Jail, and I was there for like 2 weeks before I was ever even able to talk to anybody. My mom had traveled the entire state and visited every jail trying to find where I was at. She had actually came to that jail twice, and they told her I was not there.
Jesus.
I wasn't allowed out to make a phone call. You talking about one phone call? When was that?
nothing.
Right? So my mom's freaking out, doesn't know where I'm at. So finally she finds me, and of course my girlfriend's talking to her like, where is he? What's going on? No one's saying anything, right? So, after I was found and everything, my mom was like, you can write him through me. So it's kind of hard to exchange letters with your girlfriend through your mom.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? So, after a few months went by, the jail scene is incredibly difficult. Visits behind the glass 15 minutes. My mom would try to come see me as much as she could. Didn't get to see my girlfriend, and I just wrote her. I said, hey, this is some really crazy stuff going down right now. When I get out, we can see each other and try to pick up where we left off or whatever. But I don't want you staying tied to me during all this madness.
Whatever happened to her?
She eventually grew up, apparently, got married. I think maybe had some kids and stuff. But life goes on.
Yeah.
Where'd you meet your new girl?
She started writing me about 8 years ago while I was in prison. She is this really cool, smart. She was in college, traveling the world. She went to Spain, sent me postcards from Spain, all over the United States, and now we're getting to go do some traveling together. And we're actually trying to find a place that she hasn't been to yet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But she's always like, I've been here, check this out. This is really cool. This is cool.
Did you go through?
Yeah, I remember I got a postcard from here from you.
Did you go through any anxiety as far as being out in the world? Because being locked up that long, especially from so young, I would think you'd be a little anxious being let loose.
No,
like
I don't, because everybody is so nice. Everybody is so cool. They're just. Like you said when I came in, it's like me. You've
right,
seen the films, you watch me grow up, and a lot of the people I meet are like that,
How are Damien and Jesse holding up?
I saw Damien the other night. He's got an apartment up here in New York, and I went up there on a surprise visit, dropped in and said hey to him. He's putting on a lot of weight. His wife, Lori, bought him a weight set for Christmas, so he's like benching and pressing, bench pressing and stuff, and he's looking really good. I talked to Jesse on the phone. He stayed in Arkansas. He says he doesn't even leave the house.
Wow, really?
And it's really, it's really sad. I asked him. I said, I know why he's there, to stay close to his dad, and he said he doesn't even hardly get to see his dad, and that's a reason for staying there, because his dad's health is failing and stuff. I said, well, where would you want to go, if you could just get up and go anywhere? He said, Spain or Alaska. So I was like, Buenos dias, amigo. He says, what? I said, well, that's what they speak in Spain. He goes, I'll stick with Alaska.
What was the biggest surprise when you got out of jail about the world and how it changed?
Right.
Oh, well, there really is not
But was there one thing
because,
where you went, oh my God, this is happening?
Internet porn.
Yeah, something.
Media makes a great effort in keeping you informed of what's going on. There was TV in prison.
Yeah.
No, I get all that, but
you can see the commercials of cell phones and the internet and all that.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you stepped out into outer space.
But there had to be
something.
something where you went,
But
oh
to
my
actually,
God, actually do it or see it. Yeah.
When I got locked up, I had a Super Nintendo, that was my thing, playing video games. And a couple of weeks ago,
Call of Duty.
Holly and I were house sitting for some friends, and they had an Xbox 360, and that thing was addictive. I was up till like 3 or 4 in the morning.
There you go.
Tell me about it.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay, to actually, get to touch this stuff.
Now,
Right.
are you guys allowed to, because you haven't been able to sue, which you should, and get millions, and hopefully if the governor, if there's a pardon or something is expunged or whatever it is they do, hopefully that can change, because you deserve everything you get financially. Are you allowed to write a book at least? Because you're technically not allowed to if you've been
Well, the
convicted.
Son of Sam law says you can't write and profit from a crime. We never committed a crime.
Right. So does
We
the
write a
Alfred
book
plea?
that's about our lives. And
Even with
Damien's
the-
writing a book right now.
Good.
Oh, okay.
And he is working hard on it. You know, when I got over there, he had, stuff set up for him to work on it, and he works on it every day. You know, he's got a very set, what they call it, discipline on it. So he's doing that, and I say I might wait till I'm 90 to write something.
Yeah.
Wait till something.
When there's a second half.
A second half of when you're out and doing
After
stuff.
I'm writing
yeah.
about things I've done rather than things that have happened to me.
What is it you want to do?
Yeah, or what are you doing now?
Right.
Right now, I'm traveling with Joe, just seeing the
Promoting
world,
and
seeing the
stuff.
country and everything. But in April, I'm scheduled to start school. I got my driver's license. I got my apartment like 6 days ago now.
Wow.
I probably spent 30 minutes in it. Everything just thrown in there,
So you're just
When I
getting
get back
you're just
from
getting
the-
started.
Yeah.
Wow.
August they got out.
No, I know.
Right, I think August, right?
But I mean, we're
Yeah.
up to January now.
Yeah.
So
Right.
It's
I mean,
taking a little time.
everybody's been wonderful to
Yeah.
me. I've been staying with different friends and everything. It's awesome to be welcome in people's homes and stuff, but you got to have your own place, your own space. So I've just gotten that. I got this awesome scholarship to go to college where it's going to be paid for and stuff. So that's going to start in
Good.
April. So then, I'm going to be able to just start putting my life together. I hope to go to law school. My grades are good enough. Hopefully, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You can't just say I'm going to go to law school.
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
put the work first, right? So, and then use my situation, what I've experienced, coupled with a good education in law. Maybe I can prevent other innocent guys from going to prison, or help people who are already in prison that are innocent get out.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
the thing I wanna do.
Barry Scheck has a Project Innocence where DNA, and it's sickening that we have to have outside projects instead of the government doing it, where not people who are legally not guilty, but people who are truly innocent of the crimes they're in jail for, with DNA evidence to help them get out. And the fact that the state doesn't just automatically do this, it makes you just really fucking
But
hate
Scheck
this.
is paying penance.
Yeah, look, Scheck has had his share of the wrong side to be on, too. So, Jesus Christ, did you have to argue that point so well?
I know, right? Yeah.
They're saying that they're telling us you guys have other press to do.
I don't doubt it.
Travis is shaking his head. So let's give a really good plug.
Yeah.
It's called Paradise Lost 3, third and final installation of this.
All of them are unbelievably
Amazing.
compelling and just fascinating. And the whole, it's not, I'm sure when you made the first one, you didn't know there was going to be a second and a third one.
Yeah, no. I thought, when Bruce and I made the original Paradise Lost film, these by the time it came out, these guys had already been in prison for 3 years, and we thought this film was going to blow the doors off the case.
Right.
And to do for the West Memphis 3 what Errol Morris's Thin Blue Line did for Randall Dale Evans. That film came out and the guy got off at death row. We thought the same thing was going to happen here. No idea it was going to take 3 films, 20 years or 18 years. It's insane.
What's amazing and sort of tragic about it is they are done so well, and having it in 3 parts like that, you almost get separated from the fact that these are real people that went through such a horrific thing, because it's done so well and it's compelling, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah,
so it plays like a movie.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head for what we went through when the first movie came out. The film did everything a filmmaker would want. It won every award. It got all the great press, and so of course we were very gratified, but we also felt this, this terrible guilt. You're standing there at a podium holding an Emmy Award, giving some speech, which of course, I don't want to sound falsely humble. Of course, that's wonderful. You want that to happen when you do your work, but you're sitting there giving an acceptance speech for a great award, knowing that the real people who are behind this are still rotting in prison and need justice. And so we just made a pledge. We're going to keep doing this until they get out, and thank God they did. They got out under embarrassing for the state of Arkansas circumstances. That Alfred plea in which these guys had to plead guilty to lesser charges and accept a sentence of time served is just an absolute travesty of justice.
Absolutely.
It's disgusting, and the prosecutor was so dumb to actually publicly say so. We did well. We don't get sued, and what an ass! Like, wow, that's. I'm glad he was honest. He made
I
himself.
want to encourage people to go to WM3.org for 2 reasons. One, there's a fund for helping these guys get their lives back together. So if people want to donate, there's a fund, and also there's a petition to sign to go to the state of Arkansas saying, hey, exonerate these guys.
Yeah.
And we gotta keep fighting for that full clearing of their names.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then hopefully you can get what's coming to you financially. And what's this guy's name? This pig, the Senator Burnett. Never let this guy forget on Twitter. We have a lot of listeners, so I would suggest that if he's on Twitter, which a lot of people are, you should really let him know how you feel about his despicable behavior.
In your inimitable fashion.
Yeah, no harsh language, please. But just let him know how disgustingly he behaved.
Yeah.
And hopefully he will go the way of Nifong, the guy who tried to screw those guys at Duke.
Well, the way American history is, he'll probably end up being the next president.
I know.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I know.
Oh, my God. Hey, thank you so much.
We're happy you came.
Best of luck with the rest of your life. I mean, enjoy.
Thank you.
Have some fun.
And we'll hopefully see you guys again.
Yeah.
Well, no Paradise Lost 4. Hopefully the saga's over.
Yeah, really.
3's a good number.
Unless it's something fun, like Paradise Lost 4, the guys go on spring break and get laid. Like, that'll be a cool Paradise 4 loss.
Paradise Found.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right.